Hey everybody, I wanted to put together a little video for you just to try to explain the process of making some payments in Budget Challenge, especially if you've been out for a little bit. So throughout this video, if you need to pause occasionally so that you can get things situated on your end and then start it back up, then that works out perfectly fine. I'm just going to kind of go right on through the process, but feel free to pause it as much or as little as you need to as you're kind of following along. So what you notice here is I've already logged in to the budget challenge, and so I'm looking at the student dashboard. Um, and so what you'll notice now that the simulation has begun is that next to the take action items here, it says vendors with outstanding balance, and there it says 2. So if you click on this drop down, what you're going to notice here is that the credit card and your renter's insurance have both come due, and so that's really the alert to let you know that hey, you need to make those payments. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on Surge Credit Card. And you'll notice that there's a couple different ways in which you can navigate from that dashboard. You can get here. You can also go up to the vendor tab and then just go down and select your credit card if that's the vendor that you want to view. And so here's what we'll see. We'll see that we have the invoice from the other day when the simulation began. We see that we went out to eat over the weekend, and then today, this is Monday, February 1st when I'm filming this. Then we've got a charge from the mall for apparel and gifts for about $95.78. So we can see those things. What we're going to be responsible for paying is the balance up to this point. So what you notice as you open the credit card, you've got 397.03 and in purchases that were previous. And so down here it'll say your new balance is this. You can pay $15. That's your minimum payment due, and then it's due by, it looks like, Saturday the 6th. There's one grace period day, which would be Sunday, but we can't make payments within the simulation on Sunday. So keep that in mind. This minimum payment, if you are trying to accomplish the perfect pay trophy, that means you need to pay everything on time and in full. And so making the minimum payment would be on time, but it's not going to be for the full amount. And so that's what you want to consider there. That minimum payment might seem like the route to go because you're just paying a smaller amount, but that can cause you to then carry a balance into the next month. And if you're not getting that paid off, then what you're going to find is your credit card company is actually charging you some fees, and it could become more costly over time and kind of get you caught in a vicious cycle of debt that maybe it becomes difficult to get out from underneath. So I'm going to show you how to make that payment for $397.03. So I'm going to close out of that invoice. To make a payment, you go to the bank tab. You can either click on bank itself, or you can hover over bank and then go to pay bills. That brings you to this web page. And so then we want to pay the credit card. So I'm going to go down here to credit card and select that as my option. And this brings up a digital check. I'm just going to fill some information in. Remember, there's a 2-day processing for your online bill pay. So the earliest that it'll process my payment is the 3rd. I could choose the 4th, 5th, or 6th. Remember, that's the last day. And then your grace period day is Sunday, but you can't pay it then. So if you pay it, schedule it for the 8th for it to be processed then it would be late. So for the example I'm going to do, I'm going to choose the 3rd. And then I'll go ahead and type in the dollar amount, which was 397.03, I believe. And then down here in the memo line, I might put something like January credit card payment. And that memo could be really anything that you want. In real life, if we were writing a check and filling it out with a pen, we might have our account number or something down there so that when the check was received, it would be easier to process that. Um, But in this case, this should work out pretty good. So I've got the date that I entered, the amount, make sure it's for the credit card. That's you want to make sure it's going to the right spot, and then that's my January credit card payment, and then I'll just click Pay Bill. And I think it's worth it to scroll down and just take a couple seconds to double check that everything is the way you want it. So you can see in the pending checks that you have a payment pending for the credit card, and then you can see the dollar amount, 397.03. All right, so you can see all of that, and you can make sure that your dollar amount is correct. First semester, I had a couple students that flip-flopped some numbers in there, and so that caused a problem. And then I occasionally, first semester, had a few that, let's say they accidentally, they were going to pay their gas or electric, but they accidentally clicked on cable or cell phone and then used that dollar amount, but they paid it to the wrong vendor. So you just want to make sure, take a second to scroll down and make sure everything looks good just the way you want. Okay, so that is the first payment then that's scheduled. If we go back to the student home, you'll be able to see the other payment that we need to make is Safe Place Insurance. And then you can also see that, hey, now there's a pending check, meaning you have scheduled a payment. So I'm going to show you the other way to get to those vendor pages, which is go highlight or hover over vendors, and then I can go down to Renters Insurance. It's going to take me to the same place as if I would have clicked on it from the dashboard there. I'm going to click on the View Invoice. So the selection that I made in the simulation was the option for $195, which was the cash value option. If you went with the replacement option, the replacement value option for your renter's insurance, then I believe your amount would be $250. So just make sure that when you go through this, even though I'm scheduling the payment for $195, make sure if you are at $250 that that's the amount that you're going to go with. Okay, so I've checked on that bill. I know what my amount is. So I'm going to go to bank, go to pay bills. And I'm going to go down here to renter's insurance, just make sure I get the right one. Select it. And for the date on this one, I'm going to select the 4th this time for this payment. And it was $195. And I'm just going to go ahead and type in renter's insurance. Okay, so I've got everything set up. I've got the date, I've got the amount, I've got my memo to myself, and I'm going to click Pay Bill. And once again, if you just take a moment to scroll down, did I get my renter's insurance vendor selected? That's who I'm paying, Safe Place Insurance. Yes, that's good, and it's for $195. Okay, so now I have my 2 payments scheduled. And really at this point, that's all you would have to try to take care of, and that kind of takes you through the process of scheduling the bill pays. All right. I am going to show you as well. Some of you may have been in person, and so you might have the cash flow spreadsheet, which looks like this, saved to your Google Drive. So if so, that's great. If not, I'm going to show you how to get there. If you hover over the Student Home tab and you go to Vendor Selections, you're going to go over here to the Download the Cash Flow Spreadsheet, the Better Way to Budget. Click on the Google Sheets button there, and then you can click Make a Copy. When you click Make a Copy, then it will populate this for you. And then after that pops up, I did change the date, so make a note over here. I changed the date to 1/28/2021 because that's when we started our simulation. So make sure you change that date and then tap and enter, and you'll see all the other dates change. And then I also entered the universal starting checking amount that you have for your checking account, and that was $1,768.65. So if you are getting that cash flow spreadsheet for the first time, you can update those things. You'll also notice that here on February 5th, I already have a dollar amount in there for my first paycheck. That's unique to what I chose in the simulation. And so you can find your net pay by going back to your vendor selections. And if you scroll down, you'll be able to see. So for me, I was doing a 14% contribution to the 401k, which left me with a net pay every paycheck of $1,059.19. So that is the number that I then put in here. If you look and find your net pay amount, you can enter that there as well. So then for the cash flow spreadsheet, we made a payment for our credit card and it's scheduled to clear on the 3rd. It's going to make that payment, so 397.03. I'm going to tap and enter. One thing to keep in mind is if you were a checking account option number 1 or 2, it's 50 cents per check. So I'm going to go ahead and enter that as a bank fee there. And then we also did a renter's insurance payment. For me, I paid that on the 4th, so $195, and then also there a 50-cent fee as well. So that shows then the payments that have been made and the dates on which they are scheduled to take that out. I do get my first paycheck available on Friday, and so you're going to have, I think, your cell phone and your rent coming due. And so one thing that you might want to consider is maybe getting through Friday the 5th, and so scheduling those payments to occur maybe on like Saturday for your rent, and then maybe on Monday or something like that for your cell phone. You've got a few extra days to make that payment. If you try to make all the payments before Friday rolls around, there's a pretty good chance you're going to find yourself in the negatives. Um, and so you want to make sure that that's really one of the reasons behind this cash flow spreadsheet is trying to help keep you organized. You could throw some values in there. For instance, for my apartment rent, if it was $1,050, you can see how that would impact. And then if I also tried to schedule my cell phone, because I think those bills are coming up next, if I had chose the $75 option with the $50 phone, that would be $125. And then notice I would have 3 checks on this day, so I need to change this to $1.50. And so when I update that, notice I go into the negatives here, which would mean I've written a bad check, so I'm going to have the bounce check fee, and then the return check fee and all that stuff that will be applied. And if you notice, if I would have just waited and even scheduled my cell phone payment on Friday when I had my paycheck, you can notice how just 1 day difference, and I'll change this to a $1 fee, and then I'll add a 50-cent fee here. You can notice how a 1 day difference allows me to stay in the positives. This is something over here that you're really going to want to watch, especially if you went with bank account number 3 and number 4. Because if you have a minimum balance of 250 or 400, then you're going to have to keep a close eye on that. Otherwise, if you dip below that minimum balance, that's where you get that $9.95 fee. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of the cell phone and the rent because that's not a focus. This was just kind of adding those in there was just to kind of give you an idea of why that cash flow spreadsheet is important. And so that sets you up pretty well to make your first few payments. So if you are at home, just keep your eyes out for your notifications. Then for your next few payments that'll be coming through, which should be your rent and your cell phone. All right. If you have any questions on anything there, don't hesitate to send me an email specifically about, hey, what would you do about this or what would you do about this? But hopefully this will kind of give you a good tutorial on taking you through that process of scheduling some payments and then keeping yourself organized using the cash flow spreadsheet.